The next of our speakers today is Mark Hornshaw. Mark is an economist at Notre Dame University. Mark is very well qualified on this topic because not only is he very libertarian, he's father of 6 children, and all of whom I believe are homeschooled. So this presents, I think, a lot of challenges that a lot of people probably wouldn't normally experience. So without further ado, Mark Hornshaw.
Thanks, Ali. We try and do the sort of things that Ali was talking about, basically. We just try and raise our kids so that they become choosing adults, humans. That's what people are. Human beings are people that make choices, that face trade-offs, that choose this over that. And a baby has to become one of those choosing, rational thinking people. And our job is to get them to that stage. Not to just tell them, these are the rules, but to help them to make good choices, But we try and help our kids to live in a way that's consistent with libertarian ideals, We don't actually use the word libertarian in our house. My kids probably wouldn't even know that word. There's a lot of things that we don't actually name directly like that because it's not about isms. It's just that we want our home to reflect the sort of ideals that we believe in, So we want our kids to learn to serve other people rather than to say, what's the government going to do for me, Or if you see a problem, what can I do about that problem? Rather than the government needs to do something. I see that person in need and that person in plenty, so the government needs to make that person do the thing that I think should be done over there, and then that'll make me happy. That's a statist way of thinking, We want to help our kids to be the sort of people that think, what can I do? There's a benefit, there's a cost, how can I meet that cost? Rather than how can I make someone else meet that cost, And I think the school system really is really the government school system. And I think I gave a talk last year, so I won't repeat too much of that. But all schools are government schools if they follow the government model and the government curriculum and really preach government as the solution, or collectivism in general. Whether it's this particular people in charge of the government at the moment might not be supported, but the idea that all problems should be solved through government is certainly what comes across, So we don't put our kids into that situation. An epiphany 5 years ago, a couple of the kids were running through the house shouting, Tony Abbott and Julia Gillard. And I realised that what we watch on the news is what they see, And from that point forward, we've never watched the news. We literally don't have the news in our house. We don't have any, because the news is saying, the TV is saying, these people's little petty squabbles between them is of utmost importance. These people's, whatever these two people say, it determines the fate of everything. Well, those are just two people. We need to work out what we're going to say, what we're going to do. So we switch off from that as well. We have a TV, but we don't watch what people want us to watch on the TV. We watch what we get videos, and we watch what we choose to, We want to generate an attitude of serving, and I think that it's business people, it's entrepreneurs who serve, who find out what it is that people actually want, and do those things. So we want to help raise kids who are entrepreneurially thinking, who serving isn't only related to the things that would come under the definitions of charity. Those are serving particular kinds of needs that people can't pay for, But there are plenty of other needs that people are happy to pay for. And if you're serving those needs, you can do that on a much bigger scale because you don't have to only rely on donations. It can be self-funding. So we try to start businesses. So we try to work in particular ways that kids can be involved in, so the kids learn from a young age how to serve others. So we talked a little bit last year, but we've got a go-karting business. Because go-karting is something that serves children at parties, but children at parties is a good environment to take our children into, where there's not the aggression that there is in some kinds of business, you know. So we see people from all over Sydney, of all different cultures and all different, but we see them at their best, you know. And we learn to serve other people, and we learn just general business skills. And the kids start their own businesses. We encourage them to start their own businesses in buying and selling things, or in raising pets and selling them, and just various things that kids can do, growing things and selling them. And just to learn to think in that way without ever being explicit, without ever saying you should think this and not think that, you know. There's a role, even in a libertarian society, for violence. Because if we have a complete belief in non-violence, that means that the violent people get to do whatever they like to us, right? That means that we're consenting to be raped and murdered and beaten up. So we can't just say that we believe in non-violence. We believe in the correct use of violence, which is for defence, you know. With the correct use of violence is to repel violence, to repel aggression. And I think it's the same in a family. You can say, well, we believe in we want the smallest amount of violence in our family as possible. The smallest amount of violence doesn't come from having it off limits to the parents and only available to the children to beat each other up, you know. So if a child is saying, come and play Lego with me, no, I don't want to. Yes, come and play Lego with me, thump. There's been some violence, you know. If an older brother is beating up a younger sister, there's no point just wishing it away, you know. Like, violence has to be dealt with, and a younger sister might not be able to defend herself. So I'd say that's a role of a correct use of violence is to violently intervene in a situation. But also, kids do what you do, not what you say. So if we as parents are using violence to say, get in the car, put your shoes on, I don't want to, smack, well, I think we're teaching the wrong kind of violence. We're teaching the sort of violence that you use violence to get your own way over other people. And I think that then you take that into, you model that as children, and you take that into later life. If you think it's okay to use violence just to get people to do the things you think they ought to, then there's a role for you in government. Because that's what government does. Uses violence to get people to do the things that the people in government think they ought to, rather than just as defence, as repelling aggression, you know. I won't go everything, but you can ask questions later. Another thing is, we don't pay any allowance, any pocket money. Pocket money, I think, breeds dependency. It breeds an attitude of, well, there's this entity out there that's got all this money, and here I'm a poor person as a child, and I just need to put my hand out, and this big entity with all the money will just give me an allowance every week just for existing, because I exist without me having to do anything. Exactly, it's called Centrelink. But in the family, we can model dependency on Centrelink or not. So our kids, if they want to earn money, do some productive work to earn money. And productive work doesn't mean cleaning their bedroom, it doesn't mean clearing the table. All of those things are things that you just need to do to live in a family, you know, because the table doesn't clear itself. I don't get paid for clearing the table or for cleaning a kid's bedroom. So a child also doesn't get paid for doing those things that you just need to do. Children earn money from actually working productively for other people, from actually going to work with me on the weekend, or actually starting a business of their own. That we want our children to be net producers, not net consumers or dependents on society. And just a disclaimer: nobody's perfect, and nobody has all the answers, and we're muddling our way through like everybody else. And our house isn't perfect, like nobody's house is perfect. But we're just trying to live by our ideals and our principles.